What's up, Buckeye fans? Patrick Murphy, Dave Biddle here from the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. We just got done speaking with Ryan Day ahead of this week's game against Ohio University, or Ohio, as our friends who went there said it should be called. Not Ohio U.
Not Ohio University is
the
fine.
full name,
Yes.
but just then Ohio. They were discussing how you write it, and not that this matters to people out there, but before we get into that, Ryan Day took a stance on something. And usually when he gets asked about sort of rules and regulations, he defers. He did not today. He was asked about the new proposed, one-time transfer portal window.
Yes.
And he said he was staunchly against it.
He did. The question was, Ryan, what are your thoughts on, the transfer portal window only happening once a year and happening in January? Do you like it? And he paused. He said, No, I don't like it at all. And he explained why. He said, and it makes a lot of sense why he doesn't like it. Let's say you're playing deep in the playoffs like they were last year.
And you only have to be, I think, most years.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And now you're going to do the one-time transfer window in January? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So a guy like Bo Atkinson, for example, that transferred in the spring, in theory would not have been able to do that now. Now, I will say this. So Coach Day went on about why it's not fair to teams that are in the CFP, and he's 100% right. I also found it interesting. He said pretty much everybody in the Big Ten is on the exact same page. They don't like it. Petiti doesn't like it. So it sounds like there's a chance that it could get reversed, and they might go back to having two windows. Or we had one of our friends on the beat, Marcus Hartman, say, why not? If you're going to do it once, just do it in do it in February. Yeah. That makes a lot more sense to do it in January, where teams are still going to be playing late into January. So, and it's not fair to be like, well, we'll do it after the playoffs. Doing it 3 days after the playoffs is not fair to the two teams that make the national championship game. I know problems you want to have to be in the national championship game. I get that, but still, it just doesn't make any logical sense. I will point this out, though. The transfer portal, I think we've been led to believe, a kid has to enter the transfer portal before he transfers, right? Makes sense. Not the case. How about the kid that left Wisconsin and went to Miami? Yeah. Never entered the transfer portal. Wisconsin was not going to release him, so he just said, okay. He just enrolled at Miami, and he's able to play. So,
and that went to court, right? Wisconsin sued, I believe.
They still are, and that's over the NIL, though.
Okay.
Yeah, that's over NIL and tampering. They want to make sure that it's mostly about the tampering. You're right. It's not really the end because they know they're not going to sue the kid. They are. I think they either are suing Miami or at least threatened to, because you really don't. I mean, it's already kind of the wild, wild west. So I see what Ryan Day is thinking there. But again, I'll just if that's allowed to happen, and Ohio State really wants a guy in June, unless I'm missing something, they can just say, just don't even worry about the transfer portal. Just come in here and enroll in June. We'll take care of you.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. And I think if this does become a thing and there's only one chance to enter the transfer portal, or to enter the transfer portal and then transfer, I think you probably see more kids take that route. I agree with what Marcus said. Like, if you're going to have one, put it after the season, whether it's February, whether you do it in June after spring. Like, to me, that makes the most sense. Then you get to go through spring. Obviously, you lose that time to work with kids in spring, but it fits better with the calendar of the school year, too. So players are leaving at the end of the academic year.
I think having two windows is good, though.
Yeah, no.
If you're Ryan Day and you're getting, now I know like Bo Atkinson, again, didn't get here till the summer, but most of their transfers when they get here in January, so they're able to go through winter conditioning. They're able to go through spring ball. Yeah. So I think if you're a coach, you definitely want the two windows. This is one of those, it's not broke, so let's break it type thing. Like, they finally got something right, it seemed like. Although I didn't think the first window, I thought that should have been pushed back a little bit. Yeah. But at least you had that second window as well. To get rid of the second window and keep the only window in January makes no sense to me. So maybe it'll be one of those things that cooler minds prevail.
Yeah, I definitely think you need to have it after the season, even if you do have two windows. Last year they're trying to prepare for the college football playoff games. I mean, the Tennessee game, they're trying to prepare for while also having to recruit their own kids and recruit other kids from the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Now they navigated it pretty well, as we've seen, but it still just doesn't make sense. You did mention, good problems to have. You see that with teams that win championships. You obviously have, a shortened off season and things come quicker, but Ohio State has that built in as well. We saw them push spring practice back a week. So I don't think you need to add this into the mix. That's just a lot to ask. And I think there's already a lot on these coaches.
Yeah.
And now you're saying, while you're doing this, preparing for the biggest games of your season, also go out and recruit these guys in the transfer portal so that you're good again next year. And that just doesn't make sense. But yeah, I think the two windows is a good idea. because you do have a guy like Bo Atkinson who say that there's not that post-spring window. He's not happy at North Carolina or whatever the situation was. He's just stuck, right? Unless
he pulled because I think a lot of kids, maybe they do now. I mean, because of the kid from that's going to Miami that went to Wisconsin. Yeah, I mean, that maybe Bo Atkinson wouldn't have known that was even a possibility.
Right.
I didn't think. Well, I thought you had to enter the portal to be able to transfer without sitting out. No, there are no rules in college football, as the report from the NCAA with Michigan let us know. Okay, I digress though. But I was glad. I was not expecting that question to be asked today. It was like the last question of the press conference, but I'm glad it was because Ryan Day just gave an unfiltered response. He wasn't, Ryan Day is. He's very professional. He's not out there like spring press conference. Let's just be real. Yeah. There literally was. Pat and I were like, what are we even going to react to? Now, a lot of times in games like this, you're going against an in-state MAC school. You're thinking, oh, he's going to say all these nice things. I really feel like what he says about Ohio University, he believes.
Yeah.
This is a gritty team. They gave Rutgers all they could handle. At Rutgers in week 1, lost by 3 in a game. Rutgers was favored by 16.5. They beat West Virginia at home this past week. That was a really cool scene down there for Ohio University, having a sold-out Peden Stadium. I believe their stadium used to be called Ohio Stadium, and then they changed it and named it Peden Stadium after one of their former coaches. But I digress. But they got a really good quarterback in Parker Navarro, and Coach Day went through a lot of the stuff that they've done over the last couple of years. And he said Parker Navarro is a heck of a good quarterback. He is. He can run it. He can throw it. He's gritty. He said the biggest thing about him is he's a winner. He said they're good in all 3 phases. So this is a solid OU team. Now, is Ohio State going to win this game? Yes, of course they are. Ohio State's favored by 32.5 points, but this is the defending MAC champs coming in here. They got a lot of guys back, including the quarterback I mentioned, Parker Navarro. And kudos to him for staying at Ohio University. I thought he might be a strong candidate to transfer, but he stuck around for his final year. And as Coach Day mentioned, Pat, there's a lot of kids. He stopped short of saying a lot of kids that are on their team that wish they would have been Buckeyes. That's what I was thinking. He said it was classy where he said, there's a lot of kids on their team from Ohio that I'm sure have been dreaming of playing in the horseshoe. He's like, they're going to come in here with their hair on fire. So, not quite the primetime matchup that we wanted at the horseshoe this year, but it's the one we're getting.
But it is primetime. Yeah, we will get it. Hopefully you have Peacock because it's only streaming on Peacock. Dave, you know a lot about this university. Is there any reason, a house divided type of situation going on at the Biddle House here?
Yeah, so my wife and daughter will be at the game together. My daughter's a freshman at Ohio University, so she'll be decked out in green and white. She did come to me because she's a Buckeye fan too, obviously. She's my daughter. If you remember the old Bucknuts Morning 5, going back to Front Row Radio, as my daughter Megan likes to say, Michigan stinks. People still ask me to do that. That's when she was like 2 or 3 years old. That is so cute. So she's a Buckeye, but I told her there's no conflict of interest. Growing up in the Dayton area, a lot of my friends ended up going to Ohio University who were diehard Buckeye fans. They just wanted to go to a somewhat smaller school. I went to Ohio State, but I'd go down there and visit them. The Bobcats might be playing a game. Guys would be back at the apartment watching the Ohio State game while the Bobcats are playing at home. So now it's a little different now. The Ohio, it wasn't as good back then. But I tell my daughter, no conflict of interest. Root for the Buckeyes every other game. That's fine. And my wife's going to be next to her in scarlet and gray. My wife, 2-time graduate of the Ohio State University, including her master's. So they're going to be there together. Yeah, not really a house divided, but kind of, yeah.
I think this is an interesting game. You have Texas, obviously, week 1. That was going to be a huge challenge. Buckeyes passed that. You get last week's game, which we knew would be a blowout. It was just a matter of how many points Ohio State would put up. Now, this is a game, as you mentioned, Ohio State's still a big favorite. But we've seen OU go out and play well against 2 Power 4 schools, including a Big Ten team in Rutgers, and win the game against West Virginia at home. So, they're not going to come in here and just lay down, I don't expect. I think this is going to be – there will be some tests for Ohio State here.
Yes, and they're a prideful team. Just even if they weren't the defending MAC champs, even if they didn't have one of the best quarterbacks in the MAC, it'd still be one of those games where you're like, okay, as Ryan Day said, you have a lot of kids from Ohio that are going to take pride in this. This is their one and only chance in their life to play at the horseshoe. A lot of these kids, even though Ryan Day didn't say it, a lot of these kids, I'm sure, are playing for the Bobcats, grew up Ohio State football fans, or at the very least always dreamed of playing at the horseshoe. So, but then you add in the fact they do have the quarterback. They do have a lot of guys back. They're the defending MAC champions. It's not just that they're going to be fired up to play at the horseshoe. They're a good team.
Right.
Now, would they be a contender in the Big Ten? Of course not. Of course not. But they're still a very good team, and they'll be one of the few teams that's in the running to win the MAC again this year. Toledo's up there, Buffalo, and a couple others. But I believe Phil Steele picked OU second in the MAC, tied for second in the MAC this year. So we're talking about a good team.
One of the guys who played at OU now has an opportunity to play at Ohio Stadium. Will Kacmarek caught his first touchdown on Saturday, the first touchdown of the game against Grambling State. It'll be interesting to see if we get to talk to him tomorrow night. I know he was asked before the season about this game and just talked about how cool it would be. He's an interesting guy because he was sort of under-recruited, I think. He was part of that COVID class where he couldn't get on the road and see guys. Ryan Day was asked about just sort of the challenges of that time period in recruiting and leaning on sort of coaches that that know kids or people that are familiar with him because you didn't have as much chance. But a guy like Will Kacmarek, he's certainly proven that he can play at Ohio State, but began his career as a Bobcat. Now has the opportunity to go against his former team.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. And then, he's said nothing but nice things about his time at Ohio University.
Yeah.
And you're right. He was a guy that was, because he's from Missouri. He had the COVID year. A lot of people thought, just like my guy right here from Missouri, from the Lou. I don't know if he's from the Lou.
He is, yes.
He is from the Lou. Okay, there you go. Him, you, Nelly, and him. A little Nelly reference
Jameson Williams.
Jameson Williams. Oh, yeah. Reggie Germany.
Sort of Ezekiel Elliott.
Even though he technically lived in Illinois. But, yeah, I mean, I thought it was interesting when they were talking about, like, what caught your eye when Kacmarek entered the portal out of Ohio University after his third-year sophomore season. They said, well, we watched the film. He said, particularly when the Bobcats played Iowa State that year. So this would have been 2023. He said, we saw a guy out there against a good Iowa State team, Power 4 team, out there physical. Was a really good blocker. You could tell he took it seriously and also could, catch the ball a little bit. So it's been a really good get. They consider him maybe they're a little biased talking about their own player, but you talk to the coaches, they say he's the best blocking tight end in the country. So it's cool to see Will Kacmarek get his first touchdown and a long one at that. Another great ball thrown by Julian Sand. I'm just so impressed with his accuracy and his poise for a redshirt freshman. One other thing, Pat, you asked the question before I forget. We were like, what's going on with Logan George? They said Logan George was one of the guys that they were very, very pleasantly surprised with in the spring. Obviously, they weren't shocked, or they wouldn't have brought him here from Idaho State, but they thought that Logan George is going to play a lot this year. And then first two games happen, he's not on the availability chart, but he doesn't play.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is going on here? Is it like a secret suspension? Is it like maybe, it's one of those things where he played well in the spring and this fell off during camp? No, it sounds like he's been banged up.
Yeah.
They think he practiced last week, probably could have played. They decided to hold him out. They feel like he's going to practice all week, and they feel like Logan George will make his Buckeye debut this week against Ohio University.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You would like to have the availability report tell you that Logan George has been banged up. We did see those first few days when we were out here for fall camp. He was not doing everything. So this must have carried over, or maybe it's a new injury. Tough to say. But, yeah, he's a guy that I think could help what has been a good pass rush. Hasn't gotten home probably as much as Ohio State would like. Now, quarterbacks have gotten the ball out quick. Both Arch Manning and Grambling's quarterbacks were mobile enough to make things difficult. But I do think you would have liked to see more than 3 sacks, only 2 by the defensive end so far.
Yeah, I've got a lot of questions about that. Yeah, and with all the caveats, they're getting the ball out quicker. It's not the same as it used to be where guy would just drop back and one of the Bosa brothers would have time to get there. They didn't need that much time. Or Chase Young. Things have changed rapidly in football where guys are getting the ball out quicker. But still, that being said, yes, you still want to see more sacks, pressures. If they're getting the ball out quick, okay, fine. Get a hand in their face. Don't hit them in the face. As we know, if you brush a quarterback's face mask with your pinky, they're going to call roughing the passer.
Unless it's Caleb Williams last night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they missed one there.
You missed one there?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I missed that. Geez, what a collapse by the Bears. And J.J. McCarthy went from, he's completely lost to, oh, boy, they might have something here, as I digress. But, yeah, I mean, like, especially with what they're doing with the creativity that Matt Patricia's using, where sometimes he'll just have, on passing downs, have 3 defensive ends on the field, no D tackles, and basically use the linebackers, Arvell and Sonny, as defensive ends. So you can have, like, Bo Atkinson down there, basically playing D tackle, Caden Curry. Logan George is another one that could do that. He's not a huge guy, but he was a really good wrestler. They feel like he's stout. So he's another guy that could even move inside. Rushman package I'm talking about can help move inside and perhaps get more pressure on quarterbacks. So Parker Navarro is very, very, very mobile. This is going to be a tough week to get sacks because he runs a lot. He is very – in fact, I think he's a better runner than a passer, even though he's a good passer. He had 3 interceptions last week, or they might have blown out West Virginia. I mean, to win that game despite Parker Navarro throwing 3 interceptions. That was impressive. Overall, he played well last week against the Mountaineers, but still, he's a really good runner. So this might not be the week we're going to see a lot of sacks. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Buckeyes will pile up some sacks. But yeah, getting pressure on the quarterback is paramount, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think they have like 29 quarterback pressures this season. It's right around there. The 3 sacks. I wouldn't say concerned, because we kind of had this conversation last year, and then I looked it up before the press conference started. They finished 3rd in sacks per game nationally.
Yeah, they turned it on in the playoffs.
Yes.
Like, I think Tuimoloau finished with 12.5 sacks on the year. He either had 6.5 of those in the playoffs or 6. I always get it mixed up. I think he finished the regular season with 6 sacks and then had 6.5 in 4 games, or vice versa. Jack Sawyer, same deal, had pretty good regular season as far as sacks and turned it on in the playoffs. So, yeah, man, as long as you get consistent pressure on the quarterback, which you mentioned, 29 pressures in 2 games is pretty good. Continue to do that. I think the sacks will come, and then hopefully by the end of the year, when it really counts, they can be a really good pass rushing defense.
Yeah, and I think, too, you mentioned Matt Patricia doing some different things, 3-man fronts and things like that. Like, it's going to take time when they were so, basically only playing a front 4. It's going to take time to adjust and things like that. So I won't say I'm worried, but it is certainly something I've noticed, and I know others have as well. Last thing, Coach Day talked a lot about the watching the Grambling film and picking out the things where you need to get better, recognizing what went well and what can translate into other games, but also, I guess, sort of nitpicking the things that didn't go as well that you get away with in a game like that. It won't be to the same extent this week, but they should still be able to get away with some things. You hope they don't even need to, though, against OU. How tricky do you think it is at this point in the season? You do have the Texas film that shows you a lot, but these early games, we talked about it a couple weeks ago, of trying to improve while you're winning, and winning convincingly, like we saw on Saturday.
I think Bo Jackson's a good example, because we all came out of the game saying, wow, Bo Jackson he looks like the real deal. What do the coaches do? Hey, you can't put the ball on the ground, So it's stuff like that. Like, you can look really good for like 8 carries or something, but I believe the Buckeyes recovered the fumble, right? Do I have that right?
He fumbled out of bounds.
That's what it was. He fumbled out. I couldn't remember that. I was already getting ready for the post-game show, I think, at that point. So they're like, listen, you can't put the ball in. So that's the teaching moment. I think that, in a nutshell, is what you're talking about. Like, they're not going to go through and be like, oh, that was a really good 8-yard run there. It looked like more like a 5-yard run. They know they're going against Grambling. He better get 8 yards on that play. What you can't do, even if you get lucky and the ball goes out of bounds, you got to hold on to the ball. So that's just one of many examples of, Bo Jackson overall played really well. Looked great out there, right? But coaches are hammering home, you've got to have ball security. So stuff like that. Yeah, I think with guys battling for spots, and he used the example of when Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, those guys are like the hardest workers on the team. That trickles down to everybody, because if JJ works that hard, he never takes a day off. Why are you taking a day off? Why aren't you pushing yourself like that? So, I think even in a 70-0 win, there are teaching moments for sure.
Yeah, and you mentioned Bo Jackson. He scores his touchdown. He threw the ball as he came towards the sideline. You sort of saw it on TV, but Garrick Hodge, our new recruiting guy.
Yes.
Congrats to Garrick. Congrats to Bill on retirement. We should have probably led with that. But Garrick was taking photos on the game and texted me that, and you can see on TV, Carlos Lachlan comes up to him and makes him go back to the referee, hand him the ball and apologize. And then he comes over, gives him an earful, and then pats him on the head and said, oh, yeah, good job, by the way. And
I like that.
Again, another coaching moment. And it's a little thing like...
Tough love. They have it right there. Yeah. Tough love.
But it's a little thing of like, hey, we hand the ball to the referee when we score a touchdown.
Yes.
We're not being disrespectful. We're not doing, a kid who scores his first touchdown, obviously a lot's going through his head, an Ohio kid especially. So I thought that was good too, is, another little thing.
Yeah.
But little things add up, right? And the fumble is the same idea.
Especially a true freshman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is he going to do that maybe to C.J. Donaldson, or would he have done it last year to Travion Henderson? Probably not. But I love it for a maybe he would have. Carlos Lachlan does not mess around. He let me and Jared Smalley in the door today, and we said, "Thanks, coach." He kind of looked at us like, but he opened the door for us. It's not like he's a jerk. He's just like and you're not going to talk back to that man.
No, that's not a guy you want.
No, you don't want to mess with. Coach Locke's doing a great job. He's a great recruiter. You do. And Travion, what he did last year, turning Travion into from a good running back and pass pro to Ezekiel Elliott level, dare I say. I always say Zeke's the best blocking running back I've ever seen. And it wasn't like he was 240 pounds. Zeke was bigger than Travion. For Travion to be that good of a blocking running back at 210 pounds, 212 pounds, whatever it was, 208 pounds, I think you give Travion most of the credit for that. But Carlos Lachlan is just, it's a blessing in disguise, I think. I think Tony Alford was a good coach. He's doing a good job at Michigan. But I think the Buckeyes upgraded with Carlos Loughlin. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap up with this one. Plenty on Bucknuts today, including, if you missed it, Bill Kurlick's announcement on his future retirement coming up here in the next month or so. And then the addition of Garrick Hodge, who we're really excited about coming over from 11 Warriors. So check those out, and we'll have plenty more from today, from this stuff, and leading into OU this weekend. So thanks, guys.